Morning, everyone. Let me start by expressing my condolences to the Vice President and his family. In this time of loss, I hope the Bidens find comfort in their faith and their family and their friends. And I know I speak for the whole House in saying that I look forward to the Vice President returning to Washington soon. Here in the House, we continue to focus on getting things done for the American people. This week, the House passed an important bill to help rebuild individual fisheries and the jobs that they support. We're advancing more appropriation bills to support economic growth, strengthen infrastructure, and to keep Americans safe. One of the next big initiatives on our agenda is Trade Promotion Authority. As I said before, trade is good for America. It supports good, high-paying, quality jobs in our country. Recently, I received a note from Philip, a farmer in Preble County, Ohio, and one of my constituents. Philip is urging Congress to pass TPA because opening up new markets overseas will create opportunities for him and countless farmers, retailers, and manufacturers. And over the course of the next week, I hope my Democrat colleagues will listen to these and other stories. I know it's not an easy issue for them politically. Big labor and liberal special interests have been ratcheting up their threats. But this is about doing the right thing for America, and I hope my colleagues will stand with American families and small businesses and support this effort. On defense, earlier this week, the Senate Minority Leader was asked if Senate Democrats will allow debate on a bipartisan troop funding bill. Incredibly, he referred he said, and I'll quote, "It's a waste of time." Really? Do Democrats believe it's a waste of time to support a pay raise for our troops? Do Democrats believe it's a waste of time to fully fund our national defense at exactly the same level that the president requested? What about the mission to defeat ISIL? Do Democrats really believe it's a waste of time? Democrats may think blocking funding for our troops will give them leverage to secure more money for the IRS and EPA, but I'm glad other Senate Democrats agreed to move forward on the defense authorization bill. Here in the House, we're committed to providing our troops with the tools they need to carry out their vital missions. And finally, last week, a judge heard oral arguments in the case House versus Burwell. And I'm encouraged that the court is taking a skeptical look at the president's unilateral and unprecedented changes to Obamacare. The idea that the House of Representatives isn't harmed by taking away the power of the purse is ludicrous. And I'm optimistic about this case and will continue our fight to rein in overreach from the executive branch on behalf of the American people.
We asked Leader Pelosi a few minutes ago about the comments of General Petraeus saying we're losing the war in Iraq here. She said that she didn't think that they had trained as many people as General Petraeus had suggested. What do you ascribe General Petraeus' comments to, and do you think we're losing in Iraq?
I think we're losing ground to ISIL in Iraq and, frankly, in Syria as well. And I don't think that's any surprise shouldn't be any surprise to anyone. We've been operating without an overarching strategy to deal with this terrorist threat. And until there's an overarching strategy that involves not just us, but our allies, we're seeing the growth of this problem growing much faster than our ability to slow it down.
Could you ascribe some of that to this lack of an AUMF? And if so, isn't that, again, we've asked this before,
You can't have an AUMF that calls for less authority than the president has today under existing law. Now, as you heard me say last week, it's time for the president to withdraw this request and send up a robust request that we can pass. And the president can help work to get it passed. But it's time for the president to get serious about taking on this threat, because he is not today.
Leader Pelosi said just now that you're going to have to produce 200 votes to get TPA over the finish line. Can you do that?
Well, I'm not the whip, so I don't get into vote counts. But we're working to get the Trade Promotion Authority finished. As I said before, it's important for the country. I've been meeting with members over the last few days. I'm going to continue to meet with members, and talked to the president yesterday. He's got some work to do too.
I spoke to Majority Leader McCarthy this morning. He said you'll have the votes by the end of the month. Do you share his optimism?
Sooner is better than later.
Do you think you'll hit it by the end of June?
Listen, if we don't get it done in June, I don't know why you think we get it done in July. We need to get this finished. It's important for the country.
But you'll get it done.
We're going to get it done.
Okay.
Mr. Speaker, the Federal Election Commission is still insisting that Congressman Ginta violated campaign finance laws. More New Hampshire Republicans are asking whether he should resign, including Kelly Ayotte. Do you think it's time for him to consider stepping down?
I'm not seeing all the facts in this case. I've been waiting for them to show up, but we'll make a decision when we see the facts.
Mr. Speaker, you served a number of years with former Speaker Denny Hastert, including briefly on his leadership team. Did you have any inkling of the allegations involving the Speaker and his former student? And do you feel like his portrait in the Speaker's lobby needs to come down?
No, I had no inkling whatsoever. I was as shocked and dismayed by the reports that I read as anyone else around here. But again, I think it's important for us to have the facts before we make decisions.
Speaker Pelosi was up here earlier complaining that you guys want to pay for a couple of $100 million out of Medicare for the TAA. And there are other things you let pass that have added to the deficits much larger. You'll be bringing up the device tax repeal next week.
Did Ms. Pelosi also say that she and I and our teams are working to resolve that issue?
She did not.
Oh, we are. Just so you know.
So what's your response?
So what?
To that complaint that you guys basically demand pay-fors for ticky tax stuff, but are willing to let tax cuts go.
Well, many of us believe that lower tax rates mean higher revenue to the government because you stimulate more economic activity. Spending, on the other hand, is spending that needs to be, in fact, offset. And so it's there's no contradiction here. Well, yes, ma'am.
In reference to the USA Freedom Act, is it a win for fugitive NSA whistleblower Edward Snowden, as Senators Cornyn and McConnell have suggested?
Well, I don't. People would characterize it any way they want, but the fact is that I believe that we have a good bill that'll help keep Americans safe and address the concerns that have been brought to light over the last couple of years. And I'm glad the Senate passed the bill, and I'm glad the NSA is back in business.
To follow up on that, there seemed to be a lot of anger from Senator McConnell that the bill in its form was what passed. His TPA bill spent a lot of time in the Senate, now not sure of the future in the House, so that you seem rather optimistic. Do you feel that you and Senator McConnell are communicating enough across the building and getting enough things done, or is that show, that anger we saw from Senator McConnell this week on the bill, a sign that there's a real sort of disconnect between you guys going on?
Oh, Senator McConnell and I have a very good relationship. Our teams have a very good relationship. We meet virtually every week that we're in session. But he has his caucus. I have my caucus, and while we all may be Republicans, as you all know, not every Republican thinks exactly alike, and so we have to work through a lot of issues. But it's good that we have a good relationship. Makes it easier to work through some of these issues. But from time to time we're going to have our disagreement over issue, but no big problem.
Just follow up on the NSA. A Republican senator said earlier today she was concerned about the fact that there was a lapse in the program at the time that the federal officials were tracking these terror threats in Boston, and said that the law that just passed and was signed has already weakened the program to do surveillance on potential terror
I
threats.
do not share that assessment. I do not believe that we have weakened our ability to track terrorists abroad nor here in America. And while I'm disappointed that there was a lapse, I'm sure it's been corrected by now.
Is the you seem to have an
It's
expectation.
always the last one.
Is the unusually high proportion of senators who are running for president complicating legislative life around here from where you sit? The USA Freedom Act trade with Senator Sanders running for president seems like the candidates are making things tougher than they have to be or would have been.
Well, I'm not aware of any House member that's running for president.
Senators.
So I don't have this problem. You can ask Senator McConnell. Thanks.